Okay, we're going to get started. Welcome everybody today. I'm Laura Kennedy. I'm the new director of the lower school and just starting my second month here at the Meadows. This will be my 20th year as a division director and I'm always up for a challenge. So this is a challenge, but we're really glad you're here today. And we hope to be able to answer all your questions that you pre-submitted and that you do submit during the webinar. A few bits of housekeeping. We are not using the chat feature today. We'll be using the Q&A. And most of your questions I will try to answer live. This is also being recorded, so if you have to leave, that's fine, and you will get the recording later today. You'll have access to this recording. I have several other panelists here today, as you can see, so I'd like each one to say a little bit about their role at the Meadows, and they will be helping me answer questions as well. So Courtney Friedman, could you just introduce yourself and your role here?
Hi, I'm Courtney. Most of the parents probably have already received an email from me at some point in time. I am the beginning and lower school librarian and technology teacher. I will be helping with all your technology needs for our faculty and for families at home and students at school as usual. So don't ever hesitate to reach out and ask me anything you need for both the beginning school and the lower school.
Thanks, Courtney. And Christy, could you just introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Christy Pishko. I work in the front office next to Miss Connie Boyley, and I assist Miss Kennedy with any of the needs.
Okay, and welcome Michael Orman. Michael is new to the Meadows. And Michael, could you just say a little about your role?
Yes, so I am the Director of the Arts. I am a new position here at the Meadows School. I oversee all of the arts programming from pre-K through 12th. I'll speak more about the arts and our mission within the Meadows community later on in the meeting, but I just want to say that I'm very happy to be here and looking forward to working with you and your children.
Thank you. And Michael is also a Meadows parent. He'll have 2 children joining the lower school in kindergarten and 4th grade, correct, Michael? Great. Okay, so the format for this webinar will be the following. First, I'm going to talk about what a day will look like here on campus. I'll cover morning drop-off, face coverings, the classroom, safety protocols. Michael will also talk about how music classes will look. And all of this will be coming to you in writing very shortly as well. So you'll be receiving that as well, because this is going to be a lot of information we're going over today. And then we'll take a break to answer questions. And then Courtney and I will present information about how the remote learning option looks. And again, we'll have time for Q&A there. We're getting a lot of questions about how do you do the remote learning option, and we'll talk about that a little later in this webinar. So for this first part, we'll just talk about, basically walk you through the day. So the students will be allowed to access the lower school starting at 7:35 a.m. Families will follow the school-wide plan for symptom and health check questionnaire at drop-off. And then we're really excited to announce this. We have been given several thermal scanners. So there will be an entrance where all of the students get scanned for their temperature check. And any student who has a temperature first will be asked to wait and retake it. And then if they do still have a temperature, they will, the parents will be called for them to come and pick up. But we're excited about the thermal scanners. This will make taking temperatures much more efficient than using a handheld device. We are limiting parent presence on campus school-wide. So parents will need to make an appointment either through a classroom teacher or Mrs. Boley in the front office to be admitted to come on campus. We're encouraging all parents to do their appointments through Zoom or phone calls. If you ever need to leave materials, if you have forgotten things, we're going to ask you to leave them on the bench outside, and our staff will deliver the materials to the kids. After 8:15, outside materials and late lunches will not be collected. So we really need to ask you to make sure you try to remember all materials and bring them with the kids when they arrive at school. Any students who develop a fever during the school day will need to return home, and front office staff or classroom teachers will notify parents and guardians. Upon arrival, the office staff will walk the child out to meet their parent or guardian outside. Parents will need to call the front desk, and the phone number will be given again in writing when they're checking your child in or out. This includes early dismissal and late arrival. And you're strongly discouraged this year from having your child return to school when they leave for a doctor's appointment or any other reason. Any students or employees who are exhibiting symptoms of COVID-19 without other obvious explanations are prohibited from coming to school, and if they do come to school, they'll be sent home immediately. Face coverings. All faculty, staff, and students must wear a school-appropriate and non-distracting facial covering at all times, which completely covers the nose and mouth. Face shields are not allowed without a facial mouth covering. And while outside, we are going to require facial coverings and social distancing to be maintained. Facial coverings may be required during PE and other games and activities, depending on the activity's social distancing requirements. We really recommend that you pack extra face coverings, especially for the little ones. We will have face coverings available for kids who lose theirs or forget during the school day. So the classroom, what's that going to look like? We are keeping the students in what we're calling the classroom cohort as much as possible. So they're in their classroom cohort of up to 18 to 20, and they'll remain in that same room except for specialist classes. When they do go to specialist classes, they will use cleaning and disinfecting protocols between the classes. All of our furniture will be arranged to maximize the space and create as much room between students as possible. And seating charts will be utilized to facilitate contact tracing as much as possible as well. We're lucky that our class sizes are small and our classrooms are fairly large, so we should be able to maintain that social distancing. Instructional materials. Shared materials will be avoided, or anything that they are sharing, such as in music class, will be cleaned and disinfected between the change of users. Individual student supply bags will be used whenever possible, and things like crayons, markers, etc. will be in individual supply bags. Students will store all of their books in their own space. Moving around the building. Students will walk forward facing at all times to avoid face-to-face interaction. Students, and we have assigned exits and entrances for all of the different grades. Students will sanitize their hands prior to entering and returning between classrooms and locations. There are numerous hand sanitizers around the lower school. That's something you'll notice immediately. We have hand sanitizer stations everywhere, and hand sanitation will take place very frequently. Lunch will look a little different this year. Hot lunch students will receive their lunch pre-packaged to the classroom. Students will need to supply enough water for the day. We have water filling stations available, and we encourage you packing an extra water bottle. The bubbler feature of the water fountain will be turned off, but the part of the water fountain to refill the bottle will be on. Teachers are being encouraged to move outside whenever possible for lunch, and we encourage you to have your student bring a towel to sit on in their backpack during outside lunches. After carpool, as I mentioned earlier, lunches after 8:15, lunch drop-off or entrance to the building will not be permitted, so please plan accordingly. Paper bags and disposable lunch bags are highly recommended. Special events. So our special events requiring large gatherings will be modified, and classroom celebrations will be observed within the class groups only. Online participations by families will be made available wherever possible. Traditional programs and performances will be modified or suspended in order to accommodate social distancing. So that means we're taking a look at our Good Citizen program and how we can modify that. So different grade levels are talking about that right now, whether they can do things like podcasts or videos. So there'll be more information to come about that. Parent meetings and parent-teacher conferences will be held online, and we won't have field trips to start the year, and we'll only resume when it's safe to do so. Birthday treats. Students may bring in store-bought birthday treats. They need to be able to be served individually and not family style. We're asking for treats not to contain nuts, and I'll always notify the classroom teacher in advance. So recess, we've thought a lot about recess and what that's gonna look like. And we have decided to, we've changed our lunch time to have 3 lunches so that we have smaller groups of students outside on the playground, out in the play area. And they will adhere to designated recess locations with their classroom cohort, and they will socially distance. And these designated recess locations will be rotated weekly. Students will sanitize their hands immediately after recess, and each class will have their own designated bag of play equipment, and they will not share equipment. And the playground structure, high touch areas will be wiped down in between recess. Social distancing, all of us are trying to practice social distancing whenever possible in the lower school, and the distance of 3 to 6 feet is encouraged. Students are not going to be able to congregate in the common area or any other large space. Our restrooms. We are assigning our restrooms to grade level cohorts, and we are asking for no more than 3 students at a time in the restroom. And once again, students will be sanitizing, washing their hands upon entering and exiting the classrooms. The disinfectant and related supplies, every classroom has ample supplies. All of them are very safe to use in schools. We've checked and double checked that, and they contain non-active chemicals. And the hand sanitizers do not contain methanol, which has been in the news recently. Classes and employees were all encouraged to develop their own hand signals for greeting each other, or things like that. We also encourage the students to sanitize their backpacks and personal belongings at the beginning and end of each day. And all of our air filters have been upgraded, and each classroom really runs as its own separate ventilation system. Dismissal. Dismissal from the parent end will look about the same for parents. However, we are using an app-based program, web-based program, to dismiss students from their classrooms. So students will meet their parents at the curb in the designated location using your assigned number. However, we are not congregating in the commons room as years past. They'll be dismissed from the classroom. Parents will not be permitted to pick up your child from the front office. As I mentioned earlier, all changes and arrangements need to be made with the front office by 2:30 p.m. And once students leave for the day, they will not be permitted to re-enter in order for us to facilitate a daily deep cleaning of the building. And all non-essential visitors to campus must remain off campus until further notice. And visitors dropping off materials, I think I've already mentioned this, will not be permitted to enter the building. So I'm going to take a moment here to take a look at the Q&A, and Michael is going to speak a little bit about what music classes will look like in the lower school.
Yeah, so I just want to take a moment and talk about, our students' art experience, and specifically music. Music as one of the specialists within the lower school creates a unique situation in terms of COVID. As you may know, the art of singing has been recognized as being a super spreading activity. So we are placing an outdoor structure, an outdoor tent behind the lower school on a flat piece of area by the playground, where students will be, whenever there are times when students need to sing within classes or it's part of the curriculum, our lower school music teacher will be taking the class outside. There will be chairs, there will be fans, we will have this, and it's only when weather permits. But we have recognized that with students having the masks on, still being socially distanced and outside, we are limiting the potential of this cross-contamination. They will be staying within their cohorts, but we still want to have them have the music experience. Within the music classroom, students will be still having percussion, different types of musical instruments that we have recognized and figured out how to sanitize between classes. And also, if students do have to share instruments or have closer than the 6 feet distance, we are still going to have hand washing stations. We're going to have hand sanitizing before and after each class and each activity. So we are confident that we will still be able to offer a music class to our lower school students. Our instructors have worked all summer researching and figuring out the best ways to do it. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them, whether in the Q&A or if you'd like to reach out to me via email. But I'm here to answer anything that you have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Michael. So a few of the questions that have been coming in are about masks. Are masks required for K-2? Yes, they are. A question came in about, do they need to be Meadows colors, uniform? We have not said that they need to be Meadows colors uniform. So what the policy states is non-distracting, which is a pretty broad broad term, and I know I have some dinosaur masks and things like that that maybe are a little distracting. So at the moment, use your judgment on what's a appropriate covering. If we do need to change those rules down the road, we will, but right now they don't need to be Meadows colors. More important is the fit, that they need to fit properly. And we will be reevaluating that, according to how we reevaluate all our policies. So somebody said, are we going to be looking at the face coverings? Yes, we will. A few more questions came in about remote learning and how that's going to look. So we're going to cover that right now. But one of the biggest questions, most frequent, is how do you sign up, or do you have to stay in remote learning if you choose remote learning? And so really we've just been taking it as you let me know, let Judy Hope know, who's the registrar, and we will let the classroom teacher know. People have been asking how many parents have signed up for remote learning. Right now it's about 10%. It might change after this webinar when you hear a little bit more about remote learning, or obviously as the news, things change in the news. But we really are trying to make campus, as we said, as safe as possible. And we're looking at all aspects of that. So Courtney, can you talk a little bit about the remote learning option, what that's going to look like? Courtney's been instrumental this summer in helping us get the best equipment and decide what that's going to look like, because she's been able to test what it looks like as she was running summer camp. She had kids not only on campus, but she had them at home. So we had a great test, or Courtney had a great test case for trying out different bits of equipment. So we feel confident that we will be able to run a day that looks very much like a Meadows experience remotely. So Courtney, can you talk a little bit about that, please?
There will be 2 webcams set up in every classroom, one near the front and one near the back. The goal is to have your child feel immersed in the classroom experience. So they'll be able to see their classmates with the one camera, and then be able to follow the teacher with the other camera. Your children will log into a Zoom call. Most likely for lower school, it will be one link that is always the same if it's the classroom teacher's time. So Mrs. Osby would have one link that's always accessible for the families. And she will tell you exactly what times you would need to log in, so that your child is there for the direct instruction of math, of English, reading, all of our core subjects, and able to participate in that conversation with the rest of the class along with their peers. We will also be able to use that screen share feature with the webcam, so that students at home are seeing what the kids at school are seeing on the smartboard. So we really want the children at home to feel like they're part of the class and not feel like they're separate or isolated, because we know that socialization is so important. The other camera will be from the backside, so that if the teacher is walking around the class or other things are happening, the student can still feel engaged in the space. We do not want your children online from 8 to 3 straight. We know that that's not realistic. And so we're working closely to figure out what these times are that allow the appropriate break times in between for your students and the students in the classroom. The lessons will be live streamed, and we have purchased a new server to store some of the recordings of these videos in the event that you do have an internet connection one day, or some type of emergency comes up. We're also working through setting up some type of check-in or office hours. The teachers will be with your students at home just to make sure that everyone's on the right track. And their online assignments will most likely be submitted primarily through Seesaw if they're K-2, or Google Classroom grades 3 to 5. I don't know. Did I miss anything? I'm sure I missed a lot.
Did you mention PE?
PE. I think PE, we are working on a couple different options to make sure that the students are engaged in athletic activity in some way, shape, or form. It could range from us presenting challenges to the remote learners that are a little bit separate, that are with our PE teachers, or working with some of the other fitness staff on campus to do fitness workouts and challenges. We know that it's not really the best idea to have a camera outside on the playground with balls flying everywhere and kids running everywhere. And we also don't want the kids at home to feel left out because they can't kick the ball in the kickball game.
Right.
So we're trying to make sure that they're getting a quality experience in a way that's fit for their situation.
Right. Okay. There will be a lot more. We're working on just the details of publishing the details for remote learning as well. So that will be happening later this week as well with all of the protocols. A few questions that came in. Will students who are distance learning be required to wear uniforms? We are requiring school appropriate. I believe we did agree that
Uniform shirt, like polo.
Uniform polos, yes. Another question, will students be able to take a break from the masks during the day? So the morning recess will be on their own with their cohort. So we anticipate that because the morning break recess is a very small group, yes, they could socially distance and take a break from the masks then. They will also be taking the masks off to eat. And so that will be a break for lunch as well. I had a question about the lower school orchestra. Michael, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I can take care of that. So unfortunately, we are, with the suspension of the MAPS program and having our students in the cohort model, right now we have had to suspend the lower school orchestra. We are still trying to figure out exactly how we could potentially do that. The problem is it would be taking individual students out of each cohort and putting them together, and that goes against kind of the model that we have set up. So right at this particular time, we have had to suspend the lower school orchestra. It is our goal, though, once things change, if we can, we will be bringing that program back, though.
Okay, a few more questions that are coming in. How do you register for distance learning? So there is no registration form. You need to let me or Judy Hope know. I'm hearing I'm hearing from other schools are asking people to register and also to commit to a certain time for distance learning. We are not asking for that. You will be able to go back and forth if you choose to. So for example, if something happens in your family, if you start school on campus and you decide you'd like to go distance learning, that will be an option. We're just asking for 2 days notice either way, if possible. I mean, I know sometimes it would not be possible to give us notice if you go remote. You would just get all your materials. It's more so we can be prepared for your student to come back on campus. So unlike other schools who are asking families to commit to one or the other, we are not asking for that. Somebody also asked a question about, is there a hybrid? Can you be on campus some days and at home other days? I would need to check with the other divisions to be consistent, but I believe that is an option. But I will definitely put that in my notes to check on that. A lot of questions are about if somebody in the cohort tests positive. And Mr. Gregerson has been working very hard on the protocols for all of that. So I'm going to leave that question. It's very detailed in the document for what constitutes contact, what constitutes a test requirement and returning to campus. So that will be going out, I believe, today. So he will be answering all of those questions. Some parents are questioning wearing masks outside. We decided we're going to start with wearing masks outside. If we can socially distance properly, we could change that policy, but for now we're going to start with that. Also, it's because we don't want students to lose their masks as well. So that's part of the reason as well. Somebody asked, can we clarify the drop off and pickup times? So you can drop off as early as 7:35. The question is, how long is the process going to take? We really won't know that until we start. But some of you, I'm noticing a lot more participants right now than we had at the beginning. So I'll mention this again, that we do have a thermal scanner that we hope will be here for the first day of school. And so that will make the process go much, much faster, we hope, because students will just be walking through the scanner rather than having their temperature checked one by one. So yes, so questions asking that, is the idea that students will not interact with the other cohorts? Yes, that is how we're starting. They're with their homeroom as much as possible, all the time, not as much as possible. They are only with their homeroom. At recess, they'll be assigned to a certain area. So they won't be forced to play in that area. So for example, if they are assigned the kickball area, we're not going to make them play kickball, but that will be their area. So we're trying to keep the cohorts away from each other out at recess. One question said, can I tour campus to see the safety protocols in to see them personally? I don't believe so. I will check with Mr. Gregerson, and if that answer changes, I will let you know. There's questions about what percentage of the staff have been tested. So Mr. Gregerson will be giving more information about that, but we do have a plan in place to test all of our staff frequently, very frequently. So he has more information about that coming up any moment now. So questions about how music and art will work for remote learners. So Michael?
Similar to the regular arts class or regular class experience, the arts class will have cameras, at least 2 cameras in the classroom, and a portable camera for when they're outside learning. So it will be a hybrid type of classroom where students will be able to interact in and outside of the classroom. What that actually looks like depends on the day and the situation, but we are planning for remote learning in the arts.
Somebody asked if your child starts on campus and becomes ill or any other reason, can they participate in the remote learning? So yes, that is a benefit of this. So I'm assuming you're saying even if it's not COVID related, if they just get sick, could they participate? So I believe so, because it's very easy just to have them participate in that cohort. Okay, I'm looking. Somebody suggested that the older kids could tutor the distance learning kids. So I have that question in for the upper school, and I hopefully that will happen as well. Oh, I forgot to answer this question. I had it in my notes. Somebody asked about, will Fridays remain dress uniform? No, we are suspending that for the time being. So there will be no dress uniform on Fridays anymore. There's a question that Christy or somebody who's been here longer than me could help, because I'm not sure about this one. It said last year was supposed to be the last year that the old Meadows logo gear was allowed. Is there any way we can let that go for one more year?
They're still allowing the old logo, as long as it's logoed, you know, with any of the Meadows, the M, some of them have the horse, but it has to be for the lower school.
Okay, and the good news is, I don't know what the old logo versus new logo is, so I'm not going to be walking around telling your child that they're out of uniform. So, okay, will distance learning recordings be available to those students coming on campus for reinforcement of class concepts? So, Courtney, this is an interesting question. So, all of the lessons are being recorded. So I assume this parent means if their child, say, has a math lesson and is on campus, but gets home and needs help with the concept, would that recording be made available to non-remote learners?
We're working on how that can look and how that works with the new system. If that's going to require separate account logins for lots of parents, but the idea is that if it's there, why wouldn't we make it available to you if we can?
Great. Yeah, no, great answer. Okay, Christy, I'm going to need your help for this one because it's about drop-off. And so once again, I haven't seen drop-off or pickup yet. And so a parent is asking, if you have students in multiple divisions, you'll need to go through each division's car line separately for pickup and drop-off. You cannot meet students at the different divisions. So somebody who's seen this, Courtney or Christy?
I saw one of the questions on there as well is like cars or households with multiple children. Parents at the curb and going through the car line, it'll look like it has in the past. So you'll join the line. It's marked when you enter the parking lot. It's the first entrance off of Rampart and Scholar Lane, and you'll run the line like you always have. The only thing different from the inside is that students will be dismissed from their classroom, and we're using an app, a web-based program called Curb Smart, in which you'll see a caller out there with your carpool number, your car line number, who will enter that number in the app, and the student's name will display in the student's classroom, and that all households will be called at the same time, and you'll meet them at the curb and move. For car lines from the different buildings, if you have a special case, you'll have to email the lower school or the middle school. Beginning school, we are only doing the students from the lower school and the students from the beginning school. We won't be switching students over from the lower school like we did in the past. We used to send a group of students over to the beginning school. We cannot do that because of the cohort. So you will have to run both lines. Fortunately, the lines do run staggered time, so you can make it out of the lower school line in time to jump into the beginning school line. We expect that the process will go as fast and smooth as before, if not faster, because of our new app. The beginning school is also using the Curb Smart dismissal with their car line numbers.
Yeah, and the kids are going to be in their classrooms. We're not dismissing from the common. So instead of someone standing right at the CFA, we probably will start a little bit further back in the line to give the kids enough time to walk up to the front to be ready for you. But if you have one in all three divisions, you're going to have to go through 3 lines and no side door pickups like we've done in the past, all those variations, unfortunately.
And middle school is using the web-based program as well. So the process should go smooth.
And question about if kids in multiple grades in one division. So if they have multiple grades in one division, the number will go to both classrooms. And so ideally, both of your kids will come out at the same time. So drop-off question as early as 7:35. What is the latest time for drop-off? Well, instruction, it's my understanding instruction starts at 8:15.
On the dot.
So really, they need to be ready to go by 8:15. Question about if we are encouraging, since students are staying in their cohorts in school, in the classroom, if we're encouraging the same practice outside of school as in play dates. So that's an interesting and difficult question. So if your child's best friend is in another cohort, we certainly are encouraging all families to practice social distancing, wear masks. I certainly can't be somebody to tell you that your friend, your child cannot play with a friend in another class. But we certainly hope you would be very mindful of safe practices. A question about specials again. Are they going to the classrooms? So at the moment, yes, they are going to the classrooms. And as Michael said, especially music will be disinfected, cleaned. All of the classrooms will be cleaned between the cohorts going. So a few more questions coming in. The lunchroom. So these could be people who have just joined, but we're not using the lunchroom this year. They're eating either in their classrooms or outside. So the hot lunch is being delivered to the classrooms. So we are not doing any kind of mixing in the lunchroom. Question about if a student forgets lunch. Yes, I'm being told that there will be extra lunches available here, and that will be provided. We did say we prefer disposable as opposed to a traditional lunchbox, and we prefer that, but we're not going to prohibit lunchboxes either. So, okay. Question about a hybrid option. Just to clarify, there's no hybrid model for part of the day. So I was answering a question about if a student wanted to be hybrid part of the week, that would be possible, but there is no possible option that your child would come on campus and then go remote for part of the day. So, okay. Questions about picking up books and materials for distance learning. So all of that will happen either at open house if you are coming to open house. If you're not, we can make arrangements to have them picked up at other times. And students who are doing remote learning will also, each teacher will have methods of how they pick up and receive materials. We're also happy to mail things to you as well. So we want to make it as easy as possible. And Courtney, go ahead.
And if your child's in 3rd through 5th grade and will need a device in 3rd through 5th grade for something at home, which would be more like a Chromebook or a laptop, please make sure that you notify the teacher and or me so that I can prepare that device for you and I can get it set up with your students, everything ahead of time to make it easier for you. We do not have iPads available for lending out for KN1, but most of what the KN1 kids will do can be done on any type of tablet or phone.
A question about, do the parents need to purchase separate textbooks for their home distance learners? No, they will be taking their books from here home. And again, we'll have a method for that. Towels for lunch, will they need to stay here or go back and forth? We prefer they go back and forth, so in the backpack. Are we planning a virtual open house for distance learners? All teachers are planning a Zoom with their classes before open house starts. So, but as far as seeing the whole campus and doing an open house that way, I will talk to the other divisions and see if they are doing that. But all the teachers are very available to help you with a Zoom call or anything, to show you around, to talk to you about what the distance learning will look like. And so they definitely are planning an open house type of Zoom for the distance learners. Okay, science and Spanish classes, that will be the same. All classes have 2 remote cameras. So I'm not sure exactly what the question is, if you're asking if their children will go to those classes, but they will go to those classes.
And there will be a separate, we're working on the easiest way for families to have a login for that, because it may be different than the classroom teacher's login for the Zoom call, but we're trying to figure out what the smoothest process so that you have the least number of things to keep track of is.
Mm-hmm. I'm also getting lots of questions about cleaning. So it's my understanding that we will have extra cleaning people on campus. So lower school will be given a full-time person, which has not been the case previously, and also another extra person as well. So there's a combination of our maintenance staff will be cleaning, teachers will be cleaning, and sometimes students will be asked to clean their areas using wipes and things like that. So it's a all hands on deck effort. So I can't tell you exactly the times. People are asking for numbers of how often things will be cleaned. It will be very frequently. I can definitely confidently tell you that. Okay, and let's see, a few more. People are asking, I think I already answered this, can we purchase a set of books so nothing has to come home? That is an option, but we certainly have the books available for you. Somebody asked about formal dress. Do we have to, and this again, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the formal dress uniform yet, so I can't answer this off the top of my head, but they said, do they have to purchase a plaid front zip shirt if the school won't have formal dress?
Yeah. Well, so dress uniform, the skort is only allowed through, November 1 is the cutoff? And then November 1 to April 1, I think, the girls will only wear the shift. So you would still need one for the whole winter.
Yes, okay. Are kids welcome to open house? Yes, absolutely. That is, we want to see the kids at open house. We've sent out a schedule that's by alphabet, and we hope that we'll be limiting numbers. We'll have people all around the building, making sure that we don't get too many large groups of people. Hopefully that will work. We'll know better after the first session, but yes, we would like to. Will lower school parents be notified if there's any students with COVID? Again, I'm going to refer you to Mr. Gregerson's detailed policies that will come out. I know that names will not be given, but I do know that there are plans for some kind of notification and contact tracing. Let me just see if we have a few more questions. There's a question about testing staff and everyone on campus. And again, I believe Mr. Gregerson is going to give that details. And we have had access to rapid testing, and many of our employees have already been tested as well. So that's been going on. People have been asking questions again about the thermal scanner. Are we going to have more than one? We have one to start. We'll see how that goes. And I'm sure we have the ability to purchase more. So. Okay. Do the boys need a button-down Oxford shirt? Will there be photos? What's the dress code? I believe that's the formal dress, correct? So they do not need that. Polo shirts, right? Okay. It's just so interesting answering all these questions that I haven't even seen the school in action yet. So doing my best to get all this. Everybody's been working so hard this summer. It's been incredible. It's been quite a month. Courtney and Christy here have just been amazing, helpful to me, to everybody, getting everybody, answering all my many questions. So we're going to try to wrap this up in just a few minutes. So I'm just seeing if there's a couple more questions.
Can I just
Library books. This is one for you, Courtney. Will they be checked out and taken home?
No, they, we've decided to start the year with, for the time being, is that I am going to check out sets of books to classroom teachers. It can be a random selection for the teacher, or if the kids in the older grades have requests, but those books will need to remain in the classroom. So I'm trying to make sure that you have access to as many online resources for ebooks and the like that we can possibly provide. So whatever books are checked out will be checked out to a class, kept in the classroom for use for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever the class sees fit, so that when they're returned in a bulk manner, I can track how many days before we put them away.
And Courtney, if we can just go over again, I'm getting a few questions about remote learning for the specials class, if they will have to log in again and basically go to a different class.
Log in again for the specials class. We are trying to figure out the easiest way to make you do that, so that hopefully you just have one classroom code and not very many specialist codes. We don't want you to have a zillion links. So there will be a way to do it. We're just trying to smooth out the process for you to make it as efficient as possible.
Yeah, so what we envision is something like a card that comes home that says for your homeroom, I call them homeroom, your classroom, your main classroom teacher, here's the code, and then for your Spanish, here's the code, science, here's the code, and you will follow the schedule, the daily schedule that way. So
and everyone will also be getting a list of all of your students' Google account. Every student in pre-K through 12 has a Google account through the school. There's no email access at the elementary level, at our lower school level, but the account works with Google Drive. So you'll get their Google login, their username for other things, any passwords, anything you possibly need is all going to come to you at the same time, with some video tutorials and screenshot imagery and all that. So you can work through it whether you're remote or not, so you can still access things at home.
So question about, is there a campus nurse? There is no campus nurse. The question then says, who's administering the tests? I'm not sure if you're talking about a temperature check or tests. If we're doing COVID testing for staff employees, that is being handled through an outside department, but we are not doing tests on students other than temperature checks. And that is usually front office staff or classroom teachers. Paper lunch bags, yes, preferred. Plastic water bottles are fine, and we just ask them to be cleaned at home each night. Can you, an estimate on remote learning of the number of hours per day the student would be participating in live streams? So this varies greatly depending on your grade level, but we anticipate, I think as Courtney explained, your student would be on for the direct instruction, which could be up to about 15-20 minutes, and then has some work time, and then has time to get back on to help for some help time. So, you know, teachers of young students typically teach in much smaller bite-sized chunks, and the older students might have a little bit more time on the camera. So it is going to look pretty close to a school day, though. That is how we're running it. We're not shortening the school day for the remote learners. So their breaks will be recess, lunch, and their work times, and then optional times for PE. A question about bookmarks, which Courtney, this is for you. Are kids still doing this? This is, I believe, our reading programming. Yes.
Yep, they'll still do it. Each teacher will decide what their format wants, what they want it to look like, whether it is the printed bookmark or the digital bookmark. I'm pushing for the digital one, obviously, so that no matter what your situation is, we still have access to everything. And we will work with you to make sure that your kids have access to whatever reading material they need to be successful with reading. But we'll also be lenient if we need to be, because we know that the resources are tight in some capacities.
Okay. Okay, I've answered as many questions I can see here that have come in. And like I said as well, you'll be getting all of this information you're receiving a video on return to school. You're receiving a parent-student handbook that has a lot of this information updated in our COVID response policies. You are also receiving a uniform video, I believe, as well. And, oh, this is a good question. Will there be a practice or a trial run for distance learning so students can get acclimated? That's a great idea. Teachers are practicing a lot next week and figuring out exactly where the camera angles go and things like that. So Courtney, I think that's a great suggestion that before day one, we have a little practice with the remote learners. So once again, to respond to how do you get into the remote learning program if you like, because I've heard a lot of different rumors out there that you have to sign up and you have to fill out a form or commit. You just need to let us know that that's what you've chosen, and then we'll let the teachers know, and then they'll be in further communication. And there'll be a lot more information coming about protocols for Zoom, for example. You know, we've detailed down to those protocols. Like, for example, we love your pets, but we don't love them every day on a Zoom call, things like that. So we're really trying to get all of that thought about and finished up in the next few days. So you'll be getting a lot more information. So I look forward to seeing you all, hopefully at open house, if not in Zooms. And I really look forward to meeting all your kids. It's going to be interesting meeting them like this. I'm usually very good at faces and names. I pride myself on being able to get to know all kids' names very quickly. So, oh, maybe we could put names on the masks. That way I can call on them by name. So anyway, thank you all for coming today. Again, this will be, if your friends missed this will be available later, and all of this information will be going out in writing as well. So thank you for coming. Bye-bye.